eve of the Kargil Vijay Divas, trying to speak to him and find out how exactly is Northern Command looking after the multiple challenges it faces, both in terms of militancy, in terms of border management on both sides of India and Pakistan, and of course the coming months, the summer months when the infiltration from across the border increases. Thank you very much, General Huda, for speaking to us.
Thank you.
Let me start with the summer strategy of counter-infiltration. How do you see this panning out?
See, Nitin, the basic strategy and the basic tenets of what we are doing remain the same. Very effective counter-infiltration grid, how we do synergized operations in the hinterland, no collateral damage, our efforts at civic action. So the basic tenets remain the same, and I think largely it has succeeded, because if you see the security situation purely in the valley, it is reasonably stable. What we have to actually deal with is, what are the emerging challenges that come, and what we are looking now at is, of course, elections which are around the corner after a couple of months. We have the ongoing Amarnath Yatra. We are also very closely looking at Pakistani operations which are carrying on in North Waziristan, and whether there is some spillover.
Okay.
Because there are reports of terrorists from there having moved out of those areas.
Right.
And Pak-occupied Kashmir is a neighboring area to that. So whether there is any manifestation of that. And of course the larger Afghan issue. So as these things come forth, we do nuance our strategy in order to deal with those immediate sort of challenges that come through.
That's right.
Redeployments, focus areas. Now we are focusing a lot more on the counter-infiltration postures in the valley area.
Right.
We had to do some redeployments to make sure that the Amarnath Yatra is successful. And similarly, as elections come closer, a little more domination of the areas in the hinterland. So that is how we look at.
But that's very interesting that North Waziristan might also have a spillover effect, because one thought about Afghanistan earlier. In terms of infiltration attempts or ceasefire violations, how do you see this? Because last few months or maybe a month, there have been 19-20 ceasefire violations.
That's right.
May not be larger numbers than what it was in the corresponding period last year. But do you see some kind of a sort of deliberate attempt to trigger things on the LOC?
When we talk of cross-border support, there are two areas, where it manifests itself. One, of course, is ceasefire violations, because a lot of these are also linked with when we see infiltration attempts taking place. So as long as ceasefire violations are going on, you do feel that there is some kind of tacit support from the other side. And the other, of course, direct thing is, trans-LC movements. That infiltration continues. You have a very heavily held border on both sides.
Right.
And surely all these infiltration attempts that take place cannot really take place without at least some kind of a tacit support. So that is an area that I think everybody, from the top down is looking at. Is as long as incidents on the line of control can be controlled, and these can be, sort of kept under check, then automatically, the issues of whether there is support from the other side will also get reduced.
Right. But do you think the camps that we keep talking about, they still exist, and does that support also keep getting? I mean, it's still continuing, that kind of support?
That is one more. That is one more area of concern, because when we look at how within the valley and within Jammu region, things have considerably reduced. But when we look at the intent, the capability, and that's when we look at all these camps which are across, and we really find that there is no reduction in the camps that are on the other side, the training that is carrying on. The recruitment that is taking place, to get people into these camps. So the infrastructure, as we call it, to support activities in Kashmir, that continues to be alive. Yeah.
Is there any ballpark figure that you will have, the MAC or even the army itself has assessed the number of camps there across?
You see, there are very large number of camps, particularly when you talk of, outfits like Lashkar-e-Toiba. Where we are able to get a better feel is, as people come closer, and get into their staging camps and launch pads across, that's when the intelligence is a little better. And that figure, varies, but is assessed to be, about 300 across the Kashmir Valley, about 150, 200 across Jammu. So that's a number that we are, sort of an immediate...
The camps you're talking about?
Yeah.
Or the numbers of terrorists?
Number of terrorists in the launch pads.
Okay.
Which is, a sort of an immediate...
right. So 300 in the valley, 150 around 150 in the
across the Jammu region. Yeah.
Okay. So that's quite a bit.
Yeah, that is quite a bit. Yeah.
And these are very well trained and mostly Lashkar-e-Toiba cadres that you think?
It's a mix. There is LET, there is Jaish, and of course Hizbul Mujahideen.
Right.
And of late, there are some indications of some Al-Badr people also.
I see. And do you think they are better trained than before and better equipped?
Not really. Okay. We don't see that kind of indication as of yet.
Right. Because
training, as it is, the LET people were always, and Jaish were always a little better trained, and that's as compared to the HM, and that remains. I think where you will find, an upgradation in skills is if people who say fought in Afghanistan and those kind of cadre,
right.
If that starts coming in across this side.
So that remains a worry. But also one of the other issues is that West Asia turmoil. Violence has reduced in Kashmir or in Jammu area. But do you think the turmoil in West Asia is likely to impact the Kashmir Valley as such? Because there is talk of this huge radicalization of the youth in Kashmir Valley. Is that an area of concern?
It is. What is happening in Gaza today is leading to all kinds of protests in the valley. We've already seen, an unfortunate incident where one young boy has got killed in these protests. These are issues, I think they're also being, exploited by elements for events which are not directly, concerned with this place. I know there are people who have their views on what is happening in Gaza, but the kind of exploitation that is going on, and so you find for small incidents, an uprising among the youth, stone pelting, protests. So this is actually a big area of concern, and that's why I always believe that we shouldn't merely look at numbers. That we've killed so many terrorists or we've done this. I think we have to look at the overall perspective,
right,
and see what is the overall feel and the security situation, the law and order situation.
Yeah.
As you're talking about some radicalization, alienation among the youth, these are also areas that need to be adequately addressed.
Right. But that also brings me to the age-old question of Armed Forces Special Powers Act. I saw some statement again, that central government said there's no question of changing it. The Chief Minister saying, no, we must change, or we must know why it cannot be repealed. At the cost of reputation, what's your view on Armed Forces?
Yeah, I know, I can't give a personal view.
Yeah.
These are issues which are being debated at the government level.
Right.
And the government will take a decision. Having said that, Nathan, once the government takes a decision, the armed forces there to respect whatever decision is taken.
Right. But the argument from the opponents of Armed Forces Special Powers Act is that things have improved. So why not withdraw it gradually from some places? So is that is that a situation that you can think of doing that?
See, we've already reduced our visibility a lot in areas where violence has gone down.
Right.
A classic example is the Jammu region,
right,
where 2 divisions almost have got pulled out in the last 2-3 years.
Yes.
Even from hinterland where things are peaceful, the army has now moved closer towards the line of control, and therefore this element of reducing army visibility in areas where things are all right, that issue is from our side also sort of getting addressed. Maybe that's a first
a beginning.
step.
That's a beginning, I guess. Yeah. So that's a good thing. I need to take a break, but don't go anywhere. We are in conversation with Lieutenant General D.S. Huda, the Northern Army Commander. Welcome back. We are discussing the situation under the Northern Command with the Northern Army Commander, General Huda. And Huda, let's move away from Kashmir and Kashmir Valley or Jammu. We are sitting in Kargil, and we are 15 years from the Kargil conflict that happened. Things have obviously improved, your deployment has increased. How do you see this region in terms of any potential mischief from Pakistan side? Because they did this when nobody was prepared. Although you are prepared now, do you think there is still some area of concern in this area?
Not in the sector, when we're talking about the LAC or the Siachen area. I think we are pretty much strong.
Yeah.
We were surprised during Kargil. I mean, there is no denying that.
Yeah.
But the way our deployments are today and the way troops have got deployed, the way logistics has come up,
That's right.
some other additional, inductions are taking place. So I think we are pretty much operationally ready to deal with anything that can happen here. Having said that, yes, logistics still needs to improve a little bit. We've occupied at that time a large number of posts. You've seen the terrain, how difficult it is.
Yeah.
We have a very large number of posts which are still air maintained, which get cut off during the winters.
Yeah.
So those are our focus areas. Can we drive some more tracks, and connect up more posts?
That's right.
Can we reduce the dependence on air maintenance, because during bad weather it becomes a difficulty.
That's a problem. Yeah.
So these are areas we still have to sort of work on.
Okay.
So it's work in progress. But otherwise, I think operationally we are pretty much.
Operationally here.
Yeah.
But your focus area now seems to be Ladakh, Eastern Ladakh and LAC. So in terms of infrastructure, I'm sure lots of things are happening. That's what the government is also very keen on, border areas development and otherwise. So how do you see the infrastructure development, the pace of infrastructure development on the along the LAC or in the Eastern Ladakh sector?
See, plans are all in place, and we are building up, habitat, accommodation for some additional, troops which have to come into this area.
Yeah.
And that much is, sort of proceeding quite well.
Right.
Roads are being constructed. If I can say that if there is an area of worry, it is, the pace at which the roads are coming up.
Okay.
And we do wish it could get speeded up a little.
Correct.
There is a difficulty, the terrain is quite treacherous.
Yes.
Working season is just about 5 months in a year.
Correct.
So those difficulties are there, but I think there is an overall, understanding that this needs to be done. There is no shortage of funds.
Right.
There is no shortage of assets. We have put in, additional engineers, etc., to make sure that this. So I think we are pretty much on track. Less, if I might say, if the roads can get speeded up a little, it'll help.
Okay. So that also, I think now some committee has been formed, and I think the focus is come back to border areas, roads,
Absolutely.
both from the Home Ministry as well as the Defence Ministry. But of late, we have also seen a lot of military to military interaction at the highest level between the Chinese PLA and the Indian Army, and also now we hear that there are going to be more interaction at the absolute ground level, border area interaction, BPMs and even flag meetings. Do you think that kind of a plan will help in understanding each other better?
I think it will help tremendously. Because we already see, the concept of flag meetings and is already in place.
Right.
And when there are some incidents which happen, both sides are meeting on a fairly regular basis.
Right.
And I think it's made a tremendous difference. We are now expanding this, into meetings during some special occasions, like we are planning one on the Independence Day of India, which don't really discuss any specific issue,
That's right.
but are more, contact at military to military level.
Yes.
For greater understanding, cultural understandings. In the latest BDCA, they are also talking about some sports contacts with
That's right.
people on both sides.
Correct.
And I think it'll help tremendously.
Okay, but obviously there will be wrinkles, there will be incidents, some triggers. For that, has the response time reduced? Earlier there used to be a lot of lag between the highest level and the lower level. So how are you addressing that kind of a, or maybe there's an opacity in decision making? Was there such problem?
Not really. See, when you look at the LAC, There are only 4 or 5 areas.
Right.
Largely it is absolutely peaceful.
Right.
Nothing is happening. There are 4 or 5 areas where there are differing perceptions of
Yes.
where the line of actual control is.
Yes,
And then there is patrolling on both sides up to our perception.
that's right.
How, if anything happens in that area, say 2 patrols come face to face with each other, how will they behave? What will they do? There are very well laid out agreements on that. And let me tell you, they are being followed to a large extent.
Yes.
We don't find. We also find on both sides, and I can tell you this,
Yes.
there is an understanding that there should be peace and calm
Yes,
along the LSC.
that's right.
There are not, many attempts to try and heat up the situation.
Yeah.
Now, as far as the response is concerned, let me tell you, it is we are holding border meetings at as little as 24 hours notice
Oh, that's an improvement.
on both sides. There are various levels,
Right.
so at some level it is to be held.
Yeah.
We don't even have to ask the army headquarters.
Okay.
So we've held meetings, let me tell you, at 24 hours notice.
Okay. So that's come down. I mean,
It's
the
come down
decentralization
substantially.
is taken.
There is a fair amount of decentralization, and even if it is to be held at a higher level,
Yeah.
it's on telephone
Right.
to the DGM or to tell them this is what we are doing. So there is absolutely no issue with regard to
So
response.
the understanding is going to increase, has increased, one can say.
I would say that. I would
But
say
is there a concern which has been there for some time now about the increasing Chinese presence in the Pak-occupied Kashmir?
There is that these people have come in there and they're undertaking projects, and but we don't find as of now, I personally don't think it as big a threat. We don't find them coming anywhere very close to the LC. What we know is that they are engaged largely in infrastructure projects.
Right.
A very heavy presence of PLA, for example, is not there.
Not there.
Yeah.
And finally, looking at Siachen, which now of course is stabilized for a long time. It's quite comfortable in terms of logistics and otherwise. But I mean, we need to continue to hold that for various reasons. So have you brought down the attrition level in terms of weather, in terms of the weather-related casualties?
Tremendously, tremendously. That, in fact, when initially the Indian Army went in there, there was a bit of a concern whether you can sustain that kind of attrition levels.
That's right.
Units were coming back with 100 casualties.
That's
No, it's significantly come down. Weather casualties have, I would say, dropped by about 90%
Right.
from what it was.
Correct. But we need to continue to be on Siachen.
Unless there is an agreement, and that doesn't seem to be coming, and that agreement, everyone knows the basics of it.
Yeah.
And there has to be some acceptance of, the line which the Indian Army is holding.
Yeah.
So those are the contours.
Yeah.
But if, some ironclad agreement and guarantees are not there, then yes, of course, we need to continue to hold that.
And you're talking about the AGPL.
AGPL, yeah.
AGPL there.
Yeah.
So that is one. One final question. We find, I met a lot of youngsters today who have got posted to Kargil as their first posting, just commissioned last month. Both men and women who either commissioned 2 years ago, and some young officers commissioned here. In terms of morale for young officers as well as your soldiers, welfare of course remains one thing, but how else do you sort of keep up their morale, because there is a concern about suicides and fratricides which is always there, and in this largely operational command, that must be one of your major challenges.
It is. Motivation and morale is one big factor, and I think if we can continue with sort of the basic ethos of this Indian Army, which has been built on the bedrock of very good officer-men relationship, and if we can build on that, obviously other comfort needs in these areas need to be met, and that largely I think we've worked towards that. A lot of those hygiene needs, if you can call it, have been met. But a closer bonding between officers and men, looking after their problems, those are issues I think where we can work on more, and surely some of this. But you are asking about suicides.
Yes.
Our assessment is, and from the inquiries we've done on suicide attempts, a very large number of them are related to family issues,
Domestic issue, yes.
domestic issues. And earlier, people were not so quick to come to know of these. Now in this age of mobile and internet and this, that, quickly people get to know what is happening at home. And sometimes those kind of domestic pressures play out, in areas like this.
Right.
And that also leads to some of this. But we are trying our best, that this...
Yeah, I have no doubt about that. On that note, then, Huda, thank you very much
Thank you,
for your
Nitin.
time
Thank you so
and
much.
for being very candid.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.